Hello, everybody. We are a week away from the 2025 NHL draft. Last week, we dropped the QMJHL skaters that we thought here would be drafted into the NHL this upcoming season, and now we're back with the goalie list. Interesting list this year with the goalies, as there is 7 eligible to be drafted this year. I would go pretty far as to say that I would guarantee 5, more so heavily 6, and 2, maybe even 7 would be drafted. Similar to the skater video, I'm going to start off with the person I think might not be drafted, but you never really know. And starting off, it's Matthias Langevin, goalie for the Rimouski Oceanique, 19-year-old. This is his first real season in the Q. Last year, he played 7 games with Shawinigan. He went 0-5 with an .872. It was a good Shawinigan team. Those numbers really didn't look good. He was in the QJHL, the Junior A League in Quebec for most of last year, and he came back this year as a 19-year-old with Bathurst. He started with Bathurst due to a weird situation where Mikus Vakanogs was supposed to come over and then didn't want to report after being selected in the import draft, and then he does after the NCAA rule change. So then that leads to Langevin being sent to Rimouski in a deal that I honestly kind of thought was maybe not the best idea for Rimouski, whereas they're hosting the Memorial Cup. I thought they should have went out of their way to get maybe a more bona fide backup to pair with rookie William Lassell, especially with the teams that we knew were probably going to be at the Memorial Cup this year and ended up being at the Memorial Cup. But he really did hold his own. He was really good. The sample size being so low is why I think I have him as the guy that maybe just doesn't get drafted. He played 8 games with Bathurst. He was 3-4 with a .912 save percentage, .275 goals against average. Pretty good numbers for a team that Bathurst that started out hot and fizzled out in the second half of the season. But then when he went to Rimouski in 12 games in the regular season, 9-2-1, again a .912 save percentage, and the goals against average drops to a .244. Unreal in the playoffs. He started after William Lassell got hurt, and he went on an insane run. He had this very long shutout streak that was eventually broken by Moncton in the finals. I can't speak a whole lot about Langevin other than what I've seen online, like streaming, watching the games, seeing them on TV in the playoffs and the Memorial Cup. I never got to see him when he was here last year because he wasn't here last year in person, and then he didn't play any of the games that Bathurst played in here this year. I did actually get to see, I will say, Mikus Vakanogs for first game in the Q, and boy, did it not look good. He had a rough season last year. I'm just going to throw this in here off to the side. Between Junior A with Brooks and then in the Q, he had a rough year. So if he goes with Bathurst to Newfoundland next year, that's something a lot of people, especially the Montreal representatives, are going to have to look for, as he's a Montreal pick. Good, decent goalie, but nothing really stood out to me, and not seeing him in person, I don't want to speak too much about him. You can honestly know as much as I will if you go online and watch the compilations of him, or you just watch the highlights from the Memorial Cup where he played 3 of the games. We're going to jump into Leonard Svelbergs next. A lot of you guys are going to know that name for maybe infamous reasons. He was the goalie for Latvia at the World Juniors his last season that upset Canada in the shootout. 6'2", 190 pounds. He played for the Sherbrooke Phoenix this year. He played 41 games. He was 20-15-2, .903 save percentage, and a .266 goals against average. The .903 isn't bad, but I feel like it doesn't tell the whole story. He was leaned on heavily this year with Sherbrooke. He took a lot of the force. He carried that load so heavily. He won a lot of those games himself. All he had to do was get a couple goals in support, and he won those games. What you got to see at the World Juniors is kind of what a lot of people would say was him this season. He's a last stand. He can take, 40 shots a game, and he holds his own really well. He's a position-based goalie. He has very long limbs. The one criticism I have with him is it's part of what makes him him. When he's in his stance, he makes himself look very small for the size that he has. And then as soon as that puck is released, he puts his long, lanky limbs out in any direction, blocker, glove save, pads, and he usually makes that save. His hands are good. He has good glove hands. He was fine with playing the puck. He didn't really do it. The one time he came here this season, I got to see him. He didn't start the game. He came in relief and played the second and third period. And at that point, Sherbrooke kind of took a lot of momentum, funnily enough. But he did look good. He allowed 3 goals, I believe, in the game that I got to see him in person. Like I said, very good position based, very good long, lanky reflexes. He's very patient on a breakaway. He will outlast the shooter and then they shoot at him, and boom, he makes himself big when he has to, and then makes that save. And then if they try to go wide, he just sticks out that long leg, and it always seems to beat that stick and that puck to the post. He's always secure. When he moves side to side on his post, he moves with good weight. Like I said, the one thing I will say is if he moves to pro hockey, which I'm sure he will this upcoming season when he's drafted, I say he's probably going to be maybe taken in the 5th round, but any of these guys can be taken probably anywhere in this draft. It really is a crapshoot with a lot of these guys, as a lot of people are saying, but he plays very well. You just wind him up and let him go. Like I said, the criticism is he makes himself small when he doesn't need to, when he probably should be making himself bigger. But that's something that when he gets the pro game, he doesn't even need to be told. He'll probably get beat a couple times and then just figure that out pretty quickly. Played last year in the Latvian Men's League, won a championship as an 18-year-old in the Latvian Men's League, gets drafted in the first round of the CHL import draft, comes over this year, obviously with the intention of having a great season, getting on radar and getting drafted. And that's exactly how the season is going to go. I assume being an import and a 20-year-old next year, he's probably not going to come back to the Q. Whoever signs him is probably just going to flip him pro. He's going to sign the ECHL, and then he'll start making his way through. I liked Feldbergs a lot. A lot of people, had great opinions on him. I think a lot of people are slept on him simply because there was that one big appearance at the World Juniors, and I think that's the only real huff you're going to hear about him until draft day, and then people are going to go, oh yeah, that's that guy. And that's he has put himself on the radar of, being the infamous Latvian goalie that we see all the time. The Urbe, the Silovs, the Kristers Grzelevskis, the Merzlikins. We all know these Latvian goalies, and they just come out of nowhere, but we kind of forever know them, and they're always, on our minds. And I think that's the kind of guy that we're going to see with Feldbergs. I see him going pro. He had a great year this year. Next up, we're going to go to Lucas Beckman, 6'2", 195 pounds. This year with the Bay Kamodrakar. Lucas Beckman, a guy a lot of people have a lot of words about. He's been somebody who's been watched throughout the years coming up. He won this year at the under 18s. Not like he left the Drakkar as they got eliminated in the Eastern Finals, I believe it was. Yeah, the Eastern Finals. He, at 17, he's young. His birthday isn't until August 23rd, so he is young. So he's a very young goalie. And this year, playing 52 games, it was very impressive. He played all the games in the playoffs. He started every game in the playoffs. So he played about 90-something games in the last season. He played last year from the deadline on through the playoffs. He went 7-0 as the Drakkar went to the finals and lost, and they had leaned heavily on a 20-year-old Gravel. This year, they move out Gravel in anticipation for Beckman, and it really was the smart decision. He goes 31-18-2, 914 save percentage, 265 goals against average. Beckman, I am one of the people that are a little more skeptical about him. I got to see him last year in a playoff relief, his one playoff relief last year, and his game has very dramatically transitioned, I would say, or grown in a positive way. He used to be he's 6'2", 195 pounds. I would more honestly believe if you told me he was 6 foot to 6'1", 150 pounds, it'd be more believable. He's I wouldn't even say lanky. He's very frail. He doesn't take up a lot of space, blocker, chest up, I would say. He's very toothpick-like. He used to play very deep in his net. He used to put his back to the crossbar, and he is very also position-based, but he knows his angles. That is the one thing I would say stands out. He doesn't read the play on an elite level to the talk that he has, and I think that's why I like to kind of hold him back a little more than some others. He's considered the second best goalie in North America in going into this draft. I don't know. To me, he's one of those guys. He's either a hit or a miss. It's a 50-50. He goes one way or the other. He used to play so deep in his net. This year, he does He really grew a lot more. He comes out and he stands at the very top of the crease. He doesn't battle, though. He stands at the top of the crease, toes touching the tip, and he doesn't go any further. He doesn't leave the top of that crease. He stands there. He doesn't battle defense or forwards out of the way. He relies very, very heavily on his defense to move those guys to see the puck. He is always in the perfect position, angle to make the save. So deflections, he doesn't have issues on. Shots that he doesn't see, he seems to always kind of make the save. That's what I want to give praise to, is even when he doesn't have eyes, like I said, he doesn't battle to see point shots, but they find a way to hit him square in the chest. Everything is square. A lot of those look simple because he's just always in that position. I will say he is a fantastic glove hand. He snags pucks like no tomorrow. I would say a lot of the normal things like his pad saves, his blocker saves are pretty average, but that glove is phenomenal. His foot speed isn't bad, but I definitely think it's going to have to get better. It's going to be a good hindrance because, like I said, he somehow finds a way to put himself in that position and have the awareness of what angle to play to make that save. But going further, he's going to have to work on that foot speed to make that adjustment because I think that might be the one thing that holds him back. And like I said, he's 17. There is so much room for improvement. And if you're a NHL team that picks him, you're definitely going to have to target that. A lot of praise for this kid and a lot of things that I think could be a massive hindrance. That's the thing. That's why I have him such a 50-50. I watched him throughout the first round of the playoffs this year. He's very quiet. He's very relaxed. You're not going to get a lot of emotion out of him. One criticism that I will have is he's a very, very poor puck handler. Anytime he has left the crease to play that puck, I've been on alert. If I'm his coach, I would honestly tell him not to leave that crease. Don't touch the puck. If you're stopping it, push it to the side or put it behind the net. Don't even attempt to play it. He's very poor at playing the puck. I don't know how much room for improvement he can have unless it's someone who can really teach him to move the puck. Because if he keeps trying to do it, I think it's going to be a serious problem. But that being said, could he go in the second round as the second goalie from North America taken? Absolutely. Could I see him maybe being the fifth goalie and like the seventh goalie in the draft taken? Since I think the European high-end goalies are better than the North American high-end goalies, but I think the goalie depth for North America is better than the goalie depth for Europe and the rest of the world. And that's where I think he's going to fit in. He could be low on the high elites for the North American, but be a good depth goalie, which is why I could be second, third, maybe even fourth. It all depends on how a team takes him. Next up, we're going to go to Samuel Milosh, goalie for the Huskies, Rouyn-Noranda Huskies. I think he reminds me a lot in some ways of Beckman. 6'3", 200 pounds. This year, also a rookie goalie who played and carried a lot of the weight through his team. He played 51 games. He went 30, 14, and 6, 900 save percentage. He had a 290 goals against average. He's also very quiet. You don't hear a lot from this guy. It could also be he's 17. It's not an insult to him, but I think he was, I don't want to say propped up, but I think he was pushed a little bit more being on a good team that the Huskies were. But the Huskies were a team that maybe were propped up by three guys carrying that team. And then come playoffs, they kind of got exposed. There's nothing flashy about Samuel Milosh. He is very athletic. I wouldn't say he's position-based. Like, he's somebody who stays in his crease. He kind of just does what he has to do to make a save. He doesn't scramble, but I won't say that he's quick to find the perfect position to make that save. He's more athletic. He's more going to make that save maybe with his arm instead of getting that puck in the chest. He'll get his toe on it. He'll kick it to the corner. I only got to see him kind of like Felbergs. I only got to see him in relief this year, but even less. Kyle Hagen started in what ended up being his last Q game. We can tie him back in a second to some funny stuff, but Kyle Higgins plays 45 minutes. He gets pulled after the fifth goal, and then Milosh comes in, and he only let in a goal. The game ended up going to overtime. He played about 15 to 20 minutes, I think it was, and he did let in the one goal, but I think he stopped 11 of 10, and he looked good. Like, he's not flashy. There's nothing crazy about him. He's lanky. He's kind of rubbery. He makes the saves that he has to make, and I think you can look at that and say, okay, the talent is there. We can take him in a later round. Or if we have a bunch of goalies in our system and we just kind of have to take a flyer on somebody, you can definitely take him maybe a little earlier. I don't see him jumping up. He's one of the mid-round North American goalies that are ranked. Somebody's going to take a flyer on this guy, and I would think it goes well. I don't predict him being a major NHL goalie, but the tools are there to play pro in North America. Next is I would say the absolute wild card. If you know anything about scouting and younger players, you know Gabriel Degla. Long history with this guy, similar to Lucas Beckman. People have been watching this guy for a long time. He went second overall in the Q draft, looked fine in his rookie season, kind of took a step back last year, and then this year was a crazy one. 6'4", 210 pounds. I feel like before I speak about him, I need to preface how bad and just chaotic Victoriaville was this year. Victoriaville Tigres, this was his first year as a starter, and unfortunately for him, I think they nailed this kid and burned him into the ground. He played 55 games this year. He played 27. He appeared in, and I'm pretty sure he started 25 but he appeared in 27 of the last 29 games from January 1st on. Their backup goalie left just after being acquired, and they had no real backup the second half of the season. They just had guys that they were calling up to sit on the bench, and very, very few times they would sacrifice those guys, and they would just burn out Degla way too far. There is a lot of things that can be said with this guy. A lot of people are just looking at the fact that his numbers are bad, or they'll see him just get shelled in a game and say he's not that great. The things that we knew about him years ago are the things that we still know about him now. He's big. He's 6'4", but he's not just kind of stands there 6'4". He carries himself well. Big shoulders. When he was in his butterfly, that upper body never really seemed to falter. He would take numerous shots off the shoulders, the collarbone, and they would just go up off his shoulders and into the mesh. Standing up, he would block. I watched him blocker maybe 10 shots directly into the corner with ease, almost like up off the glass and almost out of the zone sometimes. He very much was on his own completely this year. Victoriaville was so bad, they were a disaster. There was nobody good around him. They sewered this kid. I feel bad. Victoriaville scored 166 goals this year. He had 7 assists, which I think doing the math is 5%. He assisted on 5% of their goals this year. Absolutely insane to think about. I was blown away when he came to town this year. I watched him all throughout this season, trying to make sure I got a good view on him, through the Fire Stick, through streaming games. And then the one time he came to town this year was what a lot of people would say was his career game. He stopped 41 out of 42 in a win against the Cape Breton Eagles. They pelted him with everything they had. He definitely stood on his head. The criticisms that he gets, I would more so put the things that he's good at and excels at ahead of the maybe quote unquote dangerous things in his game. But the problem is, he's so big, he's so athletic. When he's in his butterfly is tight. When he's on the post, he's tight to the post. He's a great, phenomenal puck mover. Like I said, 7 assists. He knows when to blow a play dead to get a breather for his team. He knows when to throw the puck with his glove. He knows when to tap it up with his stick or just take that shot. I was really impressed with this guy, but I understand why a lot of people do have him as such a polarizing guy. Like I said, 55 games this year, 16-33-2 with an .883 save percentage, a .452 goals against average. This is one of those guys that I think, like I said, don't just look at the numbers. I really think you have to spend a lot of time looking at this guy's game to get a good evaluation of him. And I did, and I really was impressed with everything that was positive with his game. When he came to town that one time, like I said, he had probably his career game. But even if that's 20% of his games, I'm taking a chance on this guy. Phenomenal, absolutely impressive. Is he that guy that you're getting where he allows 8 goals a game? Probably not. It's probably a lot of it's Victoriaville, but everything that he showed me, I was so impressed with. So I hope somebody takes this guy. and they work with him and they say, listen, kid, we don't care what happened last year. We don't care what happens this year. Just get better, get in the right mind space. And honestly, I would love to see Victoriaville move this guy. If he hasn't requested a trade already, I don't know how he hasn't if they haven't sold him the world to get him to stay. But this year, he's somebody, after being drafted, I think is more impressive to watch this upcoming season than what he just did this year. Next up on our list is Louis Anton Deneau. This guy, hard to miss, played for the Quebec Ramparts this year. 6'8". Yes, you heard me. 6'8", 205 pounds on a rebuilding, not great, but not bad. Defense heavy Quebec Ramparts, 902 save percentage, 313 save percentage. 41 games this year. He had a 17-17-5 record. He was very average, and I don't mean that as a slight. I think Victoriaville, Quebec being a bad team that played a lot of good defense really helped him, but I think he really helped the team. It was a very mutual, beneficial relationship, and that's why it worked. Very big goalie and plays obviously with his size. I think he would benefit a lot more if he played, if he could learn to be a little more reflex heavy, little more agile. If he played the same kind of game that Leonard Felbergs plays, and kind of more if Felbergs played more of a Deneau's game, I think it would maybe help each other a lot more. But there's nothing really overly flashy. He plays the position well. He gets in front of shots. Being 6'8", he's going to take up a lot of net. But he's not one of those guys that, wow, you just like, hey, he's 6'8", he lays there on the ice and takes up a lot of space. He is very lanky. He moves well. I watched him play as a 17-year-old, and when I watched him this year as an 18-year-old, nothing really changed or stood out. But again, that's not a slight. I liked what I got to see. Is he a phenomenal athletic goalie that's going to, maybe go through the ranks? Probably not. Is he somebody who has size? And if you can unlock some more potential that is probably in him, where he's already playing at that skill level at the Q, and then through pro game, yeah. Simply being 6'8", he is going to get drafted. I will almost guarantee it. That size with the responsibility that he's kind of had this year with Quebec, teams are going to see him in Quebec, and they're gonna take a flyer on him. Whether he's a 7th round pick, whether he's a 6th round pick, who knows? I do lean heavily into him being drafted. Leaving to the very end is Alexis Cournoyer, and I left him to the very end because that's kind of how his career went so far. 6'4", 205 pounds, 21 games this year, 13, 6-1. Very impressive numbers. 942 save percentage, which, yes, look at that, and yes, it is impressive. A 182 goals against average. The one thing that you're probably saying, who is this guy? Never heard of him. He was a 3rd string for Shawinigan a couple years ago, kind of the same way that Mathis Langevin was. And then the same way he gets moved out. He's playing Junior A in Quebec. He doesn't think he's getting a good look. And so he comes and plays for the Truro Bearcats in the Junior A, Maritimes Junior A League. He has a 921 save percentage as a 19-year-old, which is hard to ignore playing at that level. He had a losing record. He was 8-11-1, I believe, and a lot of people were impressed with him. And then it comes Christmas time. Cape Breton Eagles starter Jakub Malota is going to go get a bronze medal with the Czechs at the World Juniors. So they simply need another guy. They acquire his rights because he's in Truro. They give him a look. Immediately jumps off the page. 4 games in, he's 4-0 with 2 shutouts, a 975 save percentage, 2 goals in 4 games. And I can tell you within hockey circles, the numbers that he put up in the short amount of time with the size that he has gotten eyes on him. People know who this guy is with the small amount of time that he played. He took over after Malota came back from the World Juniors, very much took that starter's position, didn't look back either. Goes in the playoffs, plays 2 games, doesn't play great. He played a lot better in game 1. A lot of that, I think, has to do with the Eagles not being all that, being maybe underwhelming. Is probably the best way to put them. They were underwhelming in the playoffs. They go back to Malone in game 2, who was phenomenal the rest of the playoffs. He had that record game in the 7-8 overtimes that I was at. That was phenomenal. But going back to Alexis Cournoyer, very big goalie. When he first got here, very position-based. I don't want to say carries a lot of weight, but he is a very square, sizable goalie, kind of in the opposite way that I spoke about Lucas Beckman being more thin toothpick like. Cormier takes up a lot of net, but he has a great glove hand and he gets in position. The one criticism that I had when he kind of got up in the queue was when he slid, he was going that way. He was like a big ship. It took a lot of time to get rerouted. So if you tried to go wide on him, he was going to use all his size and his momentum. He was going to make that save and he was going to get to that post probably before you. But if you looped around the back of the net and tried to come around to wrap it around, he couldn't get back there in time. Or if you threw it back in front of up the middle, he might have been able to get across. He's made a couple phenomenal highlight reel saves doing that, but he got better working with Blade Man Dixon, and he got a lot better with his foot speed. He's a very, very good goalie. He committed to play with Cornell this upcoming fall season as a 20-year-old, but he has publicly stated that if he gets NHL drafted, he will come back and play as a 20-year-old in the queue, whether it's with the Eagles or with somebody else is yet to be seen. But he has said that if he's drafted, which I almost feel like he has to be with how impressive he's been in hockey circles, he'll come back to the queue. If not, he's going to go to Cornell, and that'll be great for him. It's good to see a late bloomer like this, a 19-year-old, get a good look, just because you never know. That's the one thing, Langevin, 19-year-old late bloomer, short sample size. Alexis Cormier, short sample size, 19-year-old late bloomer. I think this year was a very good year to have eyes in the queue, especially with the NCAA, all that movement. And Alexis Cormier really benefited from that. And come draft day, I'm going to be excited to see him be selected. And then this upcoming year, watch him play, 45 to 55 games in the queue as a workhorse. But anyway, that's it for us here. I hope you liked this draft video. If you've watched any of these guys, tell me what you think. Give us a like if you liked the video, comment on it, tell us what you think.